Good afternoon, his crew, family. How are you doing today? We got my good friends Jerry and Weezy. How y'all doing?
Great.
Wonderful.
Glad you could make it finally. We've been trying to get this scheduled for a little while, but I'm glad you're here. Looking forward to getting to know a little bit more, let the fans know a little bit more about you, and also get to know a little bit more about your walk with Christ. So, how'd you guys meet?
He loves this story.
Go ahead.
I'm from a small southern Indiana town, North Vernon. And I was single, and I knew that I wasn't going to meet anybody in that hometown. So I submitted my name to a dating service. His mom submitted his name to a dating service. And we got paired up. We called each other and spoke forever. And I'll let him finish the rest, but it was it was a dating service, and but it started us on our path, I think, because when we talked, we had a lot in common, and we thought this is really strange. And I'll let him finish what he says about it.
Okay, here's the rest of the story. So, I get a postcard, dating service. It was it's no longer in business, but it was called Together. It was over in Louisville in the Flash Cube building over on Hurstburn Lane, and basically, I didn't know it was a setup. My mother had put my name in, and went in there, did about 2 hours worth of paperwork, had an interview, credit card transaction, and I got my wife the old-fashioned way. I paid for it. And next thing I know, I guess it was they set it up with a series of meets.
Right.
It was an expensive series of meets, and it was basically set up where, you know, if you went in one date, so if I set up a date with Weezy, and we went out several times, it was still one meeting. And I paid for so many, so to speak, and we hit it off. I mean, we had a series of phone calls which lasted forever. We had a lot in common, and I didn't really get my money's worth. I teased her all the time because
Finish.
And I paid for 10, and I only went out one time, more than once, with one lady, and I never saw any more, and we went out numerous occasions. So I put everything else on hold because I hit it off with the first one, and an engagement ring and a wedding later, and here we are.
There you are.
Yeah. So yeah.
Small town girl meets a big city guy.
Basically.
Yeah. She was with
basically.
She worked for a private practice in North Vernon for about 13 years, and she the attorney she worked for went on county payroll. He got elected as judge. She took a pay cut because she went on county payroll. That's kind of what happens. And she wanted to work in Louisville. So I took her around because she couldn't get around. She got on with a law firm that she's currently with now after, 26 years?
26 years.
26 years.
And,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I took her to the interview sites because she didn't know where anything was. And that was, 24 years ago maybe, and here we are.
Here you are.
She moved down, stayed with me. I know that's kind of not the way you do it, but that's the way we did it. And we got married a year and a half later, and here we are on his crew.
Kids? Blended family? What do we got?
I'll let her tell that story.
We have a blended family. He has 2 children from his previous marriage, a girl and a boy, Devin and Spencer. And when I came into their lives, they were almost 2 and 4 years old. And now they'll be 29 and 31.
Well, yeah. In a few weeks, they'll be 32 and 30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Spencer's got a birthday in a few weeks, and Devin's will be a week after. So, yeah.
I've been in their lives for a long time.
They don't know anything but her.
Right. And what, they still live around here? Where you still close? What's going on?
Spencer lives here in town. He lives in New Albany, and Devin actually just got married a couple of years ago.
She disowned us and moved to Scotland. No. She does live in Scotland, the country.
She does live in Scotland. she married a guy in a skirt.
There you
So
go.
there you go. But we love him. He's wonderful. Allie is wonderful.
He has a great job with the Scottish government. He's in, I guess it would be the federal version of the Department of Natural Resources. He is in
Forestry regulation.
forestry compliance regulation for the Scottish government,
Oh, good, good.
and
good.
she works in memory care for, I guess, a long-term care unit and loves it.
Well,
So-
good for her. Good for both of them.
Took her a while to get the visas, but
Right.
yeah, but she
All
loves
that got
it.
together.
Yeah, and we just have to be very aware that she's 5 hours ahead of us when we make phone calls. We get off work and we got about a 2-hour window before it's midnight there. So
So we've been friends for a long time. We've done a lot of ministry work together. We've done a lot of serving together. But what I really want the listeners to know is what is it like to serve with your spouse? What's it like to do that work together?
It's such a blessing to be able to serve him together, because that's that fellowship with him that we have together. But just as much as I love serving with him, I love it when he comes home after he serves and we talk about that service opportunity, and to see his face light up when he talks about it, it energizes me, and it just strengthens our marriage, I think, even more when he talks about it. But I love serving with him. We did a revival down at Madison Prison, and I'll let him speak to his input on that, but that was spouses got to serve together, and that was a remarkable experience that God allowed us to do that, and I'll never forget that.
in ministry, it's a very, I wouldn't say it's not really well, with what we do, it's sort of a rare opportunity, because when you do a jail and prison ministry especially, everything's segregated. We do guys and she does the women, and we do the men. But when we did this one particular revival, men were allowed to go in with spouses to the women's prison in Madison, and it was so cool. There was one moment where we all spread out. We were all in the same color t-shirts, and we all were on the perimeter along the walls in the gym, and the women were allowed to select members of the team and go, and if they needed prayer, if they felt led to be prayed with, they came to us, and we were as husband and wife were allowed to pray with these ladies. And this was the first time I was ever had the opportunity to pray with someone with my wife. And there were that time and one other time that I'll speak of where I just felt the Holy Spirit. I had just my entire body, I was almost numb. I just felt tingling. I mean, I was just overjoyed. The other time was when I was on a Residents Encounter Christ weekend, where it was the first REC weekend that I ever served on, and we gave the marriage talk. And that's another story I won't tell you about. You marking up the talk.
I wanted to get into that because
Okay.
that's part of why I asked the question, because I knew I'm leading you right into that next question.
Okay.
So the first time we really met, right? We did we did a Residents Encounter Christ weekend, but that was a special weekend.
Who?
That was a special weekend because where was it at, Weezy?
Well, that was in my hometown of North Vernon, Jennings County. Darrell Walters had asked us to be a part of that team going into Jennings County Jail. And he asked us to do the marriage talk. Well, at the time, he didn't tell me where it was. He just said, I want you to do the marriage talk on this upcoming REC that I'm leading. And I said, okay, sure, where is it? And he said, Jennings County. I about fell out of my seat because I thought, oh my goodness, that's where I'm from.
And he didn't know that.
He had no
He had
idea.
no clue.
No
He
clue.
had no idea that was where I was from. And that kind of started my realization of how God has led me to that point. Because when I lived in North Vernon, I worked for the judge. I sat to the right hand of the judge.
Right.
And when they would bring inmates to the courtroom, I'd see them all shackled and wearing their stripes and everything. And I was judging them immediately when they walked in the courtroom. Oh, they were guilty just because of appearance. Because if you got caught, you're guilty. And I thought, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. I want to dust the sandals, the dust off my sandals, and get out of this town. And little did I know, God was planning a change of heart for me. And so when this opportunity came up, it was almost as if God said, you know, Weezy, remember that time when you were passing judgment? You were sitting there passing judgment, and no, we're going to change your heart.
We're not through with you yet.
We're not through with you yet. Not only am I going to put you back in your hometown, I'm actually going to put you back in jail with them.
Right.
And so I thought that was pretty ironic, and it did. It made a difference. He replaced my heart of stone with a heart of flesh. And to be able to serve in my hometown.
With your husband.
With my husband.
Your first time serving.
My first time serving with my husband, with my friends, with my brothers in Christ.
With inmates in that particular conference room, one or two of which you actually went to school with.
I went to school with.
I remember that.
And I think
three generations were in that room.
I think I shared with the group that this is very personal. I take personal responsibility for how I left that town and how I left myself. And this was God's way of saying, well, we'll work on that. We're gonna make things equal now, on playing time.
And the team of meal servers, some of it was.
Well, that's why I want to talk about that before we get into your all's talk, the marriage talk you first gave.
I'm jumping ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're fine. This is great. But I really want to know what it was like, right? So here we are. We've got the REC going on. We're going back to the hometown. Brand new. This is a whole new facility we've never been to. This is the first time we've been to Jennings County as our community group. And Daryl says, "Hey, we need some help. We need to generate some excitement in the churches and this, that, and the other." And lo and behold, he gets a hold of you, and you all start talking. And we're looking for people to serve meals, looking for people to cook meals, looking for people to do different things. And what ended up happening?
Well, I talked to my sister about what was happening. And her and her husband said, wow, that's amazing. We're in this amazing Bible study group. We have about 8 couples from 8 different local churches. And we would love to cook for you all that weekend. And okay, this is great. And so the membership team came up and kind of talked with them about what that looks like and cooking the meals. And then it became not only just cooking the meals for the residents in the conference room at the time, but actually cooking for the entire jail. And they had almost 200 people in there, including jail staff, that they were going to cook for all weekend long. And they were jazzed up. And
they even changed the name of their group, didn't they?
They changed their name of the group to Mission Possible, wasn't it? I won't tell you the original name, but it's okay. But no, it was not only was I serving with my husband, I was serving with my family, my sister and her husband. And
because you don't stay there the whole weekend. You only come in to do the marriage talk, so you're able to help them cook and serve and do all that. And I can't imagine the emotions that you were feeling going through that.
It was overwhelming, and I think afterwards, talking with my sister and brother-in-law and those in the kitchen, how they were able to witness to the trustees that were working with them in the kitchen. And they would pray over the meals. They would have the trustees, who are the inmates that have good behavior. They're trusted with a little bit more responsibility. And so they were there actually witnessing to them in the kitchen while the other witnessing was going on in other parts of the jail. And the really cool thing about it was I got the opportunity to lead a women's REC in Jennings County the following year, And I had teammates leading jail staff to Christ. So it was mind blowing. That jail will never be the same after that. It was so filled with the Spirit.
Oh, it just hit me. I led the men with her
Right.
the next year. Yeah.
Yep. So let's talk about the first talk on the first REC in Jennings County, and it's the marriage talk. Go ahead.
Okay, so you and I had an idea. Was it your idea? Probably was, because I know
You were feeling a little apprehensive about your talk. You wasn't real confident in you guys had a good talk to give, and you were a little anxious about it. And we were sitting there talking and
Setting Wheezy up. Go ahead.
So we were in the hotel, and we wanted to make it light and feel a little bit more comfortable. I think you wanted to ease my anxiety. So I went. We thought we'd doctor it up a little bit. So I got a Sharpie, went to the front desk, and we made an extra copy. And on the talk, she had her section, I had my part, and I would I would edit her part and put overrated or not necessary and X part of what she had. So when we would we got ready to go in the talk, I was at my table with my table leader, and you were.
I had the talk in my hands. The
Darren,
fake talk.
Darren had the fake talk, the mock talk, in the back of the conference room, the doorway, and she's standing back at the doorway getting ready to come in. Darren's right there in the chair against the wall. He hands her part of the talk, and as she's walking in, as we're getting ready to approach the podium, she looks at the talk, and her eyes got as big as flying saucers because
My entire part was crossed out.
she had nothing really to say, and she was looking at my comments in the margin. It almost became a singles talk for me, and then
True that.
Of course, I had the actual talk, and it started off pretty light. But as we walked up together, there was a worship song, and I don't recall what it was. All I know is I was so relieved. My whole body, I just felt this heat sensation from my head to my feet. And I know it was the Holy Spirit. I just felt this warmth. It's like God was saying, this is okay. You're right where I want you. And this is my purpose for you at this moment. And the talk I thought was flawless. Mm-hmm. I hope it was received as well as I felt that it was projected and spoken. That I felt like they were his words, and it was great. And then, of course, at the end of the talk, there's a panel. They're allowed to ask questions, and I thought it went real well because that was, I think Daryl even had probably mentioned it earlier during the podcast, but that was a very hard place when we went in. That spirit was thick.
It was. But what I like about that whole thing that we did there, it broke the ice for you guys because you both were really nervous to give that talk. Mm-hmm. And the relief on your face when I took the bad one and gave you the right one back and said it's great, don't change anything. You just the relief that you had, and then we prayed for you guys before you went out there. It's like that is what it's all about, right? Mm-hmm. It's not so much what's on that piece of paper, because the words on the piece of paper really don't matter at all.
Right.
It's you guys are getting out of your comfort zone. You are giving a talk together in front of a group of men that you judged several years earlier, and now you're going to bear everything in front of them as far as who you used to be and who you are now. And just to see you guys up there together, you had your same football jersey, colored jerseys on, and you had a little football theme that you guys did. And, just me sitting in the back watching you two guys. And then just to walk with you guys over the years and to watch your ministry grow together is I say it all the time. God's given me a front row seat for a lot of people. And I love the front row seat he's given me to watch different people grow in the faith and in serving and doing that. And I'm glad to play a small part of having a little fun with you.
Oh, it was a blast. It was a blast. And that jump started my ministry, well, that area of my ministry, as far as the prison, in jail, and it's just like today, I had a God moment with an inmate here locally,
Right.
and it's like I look back and it's like, man, that's been, what's the math, 11 years now, and it's like it's like a locomotive. It just gains steam.
Well, and the other thing too is, and I think this is good for listeners to hear. We were serving the whole facility, and then you were able to go in the women's pod, and just the interactions you were having in the women's pod that weren't even part of the REC.
Right. They allowed us to go in and actually feed them, and we were able to minister them with the food, and just kind of talk with them. And they were welcoming. They were receptive. They were open. We had great conversations in there. And granted, it wasn't a long time, but we'll take whatever minute we can get, because God will use whatever powerful minute you can have. And so it was wonderful. It was wonderful to minister to them, to each other, to teammates, to the jail staff, to the jail commander at the time. Commander Beard was wonderful to really serve with, and he was a godly man, and it was wonderful to serve all that. And if you don't think that your testimony has impact, we did not learn until many years later that one of the guys that was attending the REC, who was an inmate, came back. He says, "I remember everything you said," and that was. I don't remember everything I said.
Right.
So that was
Well,
confirmation to
wasn't
me.
he one of the guys you went to school with, or
No.
knew your family? I know you got a chance to talk to the guys you were in school with.
Yes, and actually one of the guys who served a meal was a high school teacher, and he had several students in there.
One was at my table.
Yeah,
And
I remember that.
Yeah, it was I don't know. It was just a holy moment. They may not have seen it that way, but that's definitely what it
Well,
was.
I think
It had a ripple effect in the community too, because these people that served went back to their churches about the fruits of their labor.
8 different churches.
Eight
Yes.
different churches, and I think it had like a small revival in that community. It really did.
Yeah, and they would look forward to the next REC when they could do it again.
Are they still serving?
No, I don't believe they are.
Okay. Yeah, I know we kind of changed leadership up there,
Well,
and
and some people have passed.
I know that you don't get that type of. Sometimes you don't get to see God work like that. Sometimes you go and serve and you never get to see the benefits of the serving. But that was one of those, like you said, one of those special moments in ministry that you actually got to see God work, God show out, God be participant and real, and then you got to see the harvest. It all happened in that 3 days. Not just with the men that we were supposed to be there for, but I remember we went to serve banana splits,
Oh yeah,
and there was a lady in one of the pods. She wouldn't come out to get food because she couldn't. She was so convicted by the Holy Spirit, she couldn't come out.
she's crying.
Crying.
Right.
And was it you that went in and got her? I think it was you and Mom. Betsy went in to get her and bring her out, right? And finally got her to come back out and to get that, because we had socks for him, we had the banana split, all kinds of different things, and just that little moment, you guys I seen you off in the corner talking to her, and no telling what you guys were saying to her, but you could just see her melting
She
right
didn't
there.
feel worthy. I don't think. I don't know what the deal was, but
It's just a special moment all the way around. And, I think, what I'd like for his crew family to know is just, it doesn't matter what you're doing when you're serving God.
Right.
Doesn't matter, right? I think everybody gets so caught up in, I got to do this, I got to do that. Just like you said earlier today, you just had a conversation with an inmate today.
It was just. I told her when I got home, it just made my day. Absolutely made my
Just
day.
a small conversation.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And you didn't do anything special to do that. You were just present.
I just asked questions.
Just
ask questions.
Just ask questions.
It's the best thing to do. And at the end of the day, that's really what we're called to do. We're just called to help people. We're called to serve God, and through serving Him, the people that we're serving will come along, and we're able to share the gospel.
Absolutely. Even if it's walking into a grocery store, smiling at someone, letting someone go ahead of you in the line, If someone's short on change, giving it to them. It doesn't have to be a mission trip to Africa, even though that's wonderful. But the mission field starts the minute you walk out your door.
Can I tell this story real fast? So, we did a REC just about 2-3 weeks ago, Washington County in Salem. And we're going back to the hotel. And the lady that had, at the hotel, who had been the desk attendant or whatever, got to know her the night before. As it turned out, her son was getting released from prison. And I was just talking to her. I can talk to anybody. She was all tatted out and didn't know her backstory, didn't matter, but we just I can talk to anybody. Imagine that. After, 2 hours when we first met, you figured that out real quickly. And she seemed kind of broken. I could tell she had a hard life, but didn't go there. And I'm one of these, I don't, it's none of my business unless you make it my business. So we got to talking, and she just opened up, and I said, well, that's great, because she knew why we were staying there, because we were serving in the jail. So she felt comfortable talking about that. I said, well, yeah, we go to Branchville. Kind of told her about the classes we would teach and all that, and told me his background, and we were just talking about maybe, does he have a place to stay? Just asked her some questions. So the next day, I saw her again, and she was back in the back, and she just looked like she had a bad day or a bad night. And I said, you look like you need a hug. I was just kind of messing with her. And she says, well, I do. I was up all night last night. I had a bad night. And I said, well, honey, are you okay? And she says, well, not really. I have stage 1 lung cancer. And I was up all night. She came out in the hallway, and I hugged her. And I said, can I pray with you? Pray over you. And our friend David was with me, and we both prayed over her. And she just lightened up. She was exhausted. I don't know what she went through. I think she had her oxygen with her. She has to have oxygen all the time. So we prayed over her. That was just my first instinct. I wanted to pray over her. Right. We were getting ready to leave again that morning. And, but, that's just what I felt like I was called to do at that moment. I felt like, I'm supposed to meet people where they're at that time. Then I went on to the jail. So, and I got to talking to the guys, and I didn't see her when I came back. I guess she was off shift, but I just felt like that was my calling, and I hope she had a better day. But I just met her where she was at, but she, at that moment when we were done, she seemed so appreciative. Now, I know that didn't give her any more energy, but I just hope I got her mind right, that somebody out there, even total strangers, even though I met her a little, kind of got to know her, were there for her, and that I just told her that we cared about her, we loved her. We can love people that we don't know. We can pray over people we don't know, but mainly that God loved her, and that's all that mattered at the end of the day.
And what's the beauty thing of that is it's you just gave her some hope for the time.
Yeah,
she didn't have any hope.
Yeah, I mean, and I was so thankful it was stage 1.
Yeah.
If she said I had stage 4, I would have been torn up. But I mean, whether honestly, had I not met her the night before, I probably would have done the same thing. It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
But
that's a good breaking point for us here, right? Because when we come back, I want to talk about what it means, what you guys think it means to be a Christian, ready, equipped, and willing. You just kind of give us a story about that, but I really want to dig into it here in the next segment. All right?
Good.
We'll
Sounds
be right
good.
back. Don't forget to join us.